Hey friends, what's up? Ash here. Welcome back to Extra Gents Scents. Today I'm going to be reviewing a fragrance that came out back in 2013, one that I never did get around to reviewing on my main channel. It's from Ralph Lauren and it's Polo Red. Yeah, the original Polo Red. They're coming out with a new one this year, Polo Red Parfum. It's been announced, but as of when I'm shooting this video, it's not available anywhere yet. So with that new one coming out soon, I figured why not take a look at the OG, the original Polo Red, go over the fragrance and talk about whether or not this stuff is still even worth entertaining. Like, if you don't own this, is it something you should even bother looking at? Does it still work, as they always say? Is it still worth it? In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about it and give you my thoughts. So let's jump into it and go over Polo Red. Now, this bottle I have had for a while. This is a big, huge 200 ml size bottle. Don't have the box for this anymore. It is long gone. But let's go ahead and share some sprays anyway from the bottle so you can check out the atomizer and how it works. So here we go. Same atomizer on pretty much all of these type bottles from Ralph Lauren. So Polo Red, this one's still readily available. You can easily find this at discounters. I think a 2.5 ounce bottle, it's gonna run you somewhere around $50 to $55 at most discounters. So it's not really cheap, but it's not crazy expensive either. And as I said, still readily available, which is more than you can say for some of the flankers that came after this one. We'll talk about those very briefly in today's video. The other Polo Reds, the forgotten Polo Reds, if you want to call them that. So when this one first came out, it was not immediately well accepted by the fragrance community at large. A lot of people thought that it was too boring, not exciting enough. But to be fair, that happens with a lot of new releases. And then over time, they end up finding quite an audience inside the fragrance community, and obviously just with people in general. With Polo Red, I think that there are some strong positives and also some cons. And depending on what is most important to you is going to kind of make or break the fragrance for you, you could say. So the initial blast of this one does have like a little kind of alcohol tinge to it if you spray and immediately go in for a sniff, but it dissipates very quickly. And the focal point, the main thing that helps set this fragrance apart and gives it its identity is in the opening, and it's cranberry. So you have cranberry mixing together with citrus off the top, and obviously that helps tie in with the red coloration, the red name. And cranberry is a really interesting choice because it's not used very often in fragrances, especially not in men's fragrances. And it gives you this kind of tart sweetness off the top that you don't experience many other places. And I really like that about Polo Red because it gives it something different, something interesting. And even though this one has been out for 10 years now, the opening is still really unique as far as designer fragrances go. The ones that get compared to this most often, the ones that where people will say, well, that's similar to Polo Red, are the Polo Red flankers. So yeah, it's still Polo Red. So the opening, I love. Really nice. Like I said, a different kind of twist. You get a little citrus, a little sweetness from that citrus underneath the cranberry, but it's mainly the cranberry that steals the show. And it's both tart and sweet and a little bit warm at the same time, because underneath the cranberry, even off the top, you've got a little bit of coffee in there, you've got some amber, and then a little woodiness as well. So pretty quickly, what ends up happening is the cranberry fades away. Unfortunately, doesn't stick around for too long, and that's a bummer. You get a little aromatic touch as it dries, but then it mainly becomes this dusty coffee mixing with amber and residual sweetness, because even though the cranberry stops being immediately noticeable as cranberry, some of that sweetness lingers. So I love the opening, and then as it dries, it loses a little bit of its identity, and it does at times, especially as it heads into the dry down, smell like there's tonka there, even though it's not an official note. You get that kind of vibe, that kind of tonka vibe going on. And as I said, it comes through especially in the dry down. Once you get the dry down and the kind of coffee is slowly fading and the saffron is faded, the cranberry is no longer there, and you just have that kind of amber and a bit of woodiness. It does have a Tonka vibe, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Tonka is a note that, you know, is used all the time because of how much people love it. That warmth, that sweetness, very easygoing. So most of this is all good with Polo Red. As far as how it smells, like I said, the opening I really like. And I do like the mid and the dry down too. They're just not as immediately recognizable as the opening. And I do think this stuff still works really well today because it is very appealing. There's a reason that this stuff is still around a decade later. And that's because it is mass appealing. It's a compliment puller. But it does have a big issue. And that issue is the performance. Now the longevity is okay. Off skin, it's, you know, not great, but it's not something that I would get worked up about as far as being underpowered. The longevity is all right, but the projection, it's on the weaker side. And that does become an issue because Polo Red is the type of fragrance that more people are going to gravitate toward during fall and winter time because it has that warmth, it has that sweetness, that little tart punch from cranberry, the coffee, the amber. All this stuff points to a fall fragrance especially, and a winter fragrance secondarily. And so when you can't smell it unless you're right up on somebody, that hurts it, especially when it's cold outside and your fragrance is already sitting closer to the skin than it would usually be. A fragrance that is made for those seasons that does not have very good push, that can be an issue. Now, of course, you could wear this during the spring. You could wear it during early fall, where it's not going to be as much of an issue. But if you're wanting to wear it around the holidays, which is when a lot of people might think of wearing a cranberry coffee fragrance, the toned down performance could be a little bit of a buzzkill. Of course, if you're indoors and it's air conditioned, you're not out and about outside in the cold, it doesn't really matter as much. So keep that in mind also. But as far as the scent itself, even though it's not maybe a sexy choice as far as being something more unique, you know, it's just a regular old Polo bottle from Ralph Lauren, whatever. Not even a flanker, just the original one. Even though it's not maybe like the hottest choice. Maybe that's a better wording for it. Stuff still works. It still smells really good. Very easy to pull off. Just a nice smelling scent. But here's the unfortunate part. Polo Red, the Eau de Toilette, the original, is in my opinion not the best iteration of Polo Red. Actually, not even close. I think this guy, Polo Red Intense, is better than the original Polo Red in basically every single way possible. The cranberry in this is just ramped up to 11 compared to the original Polo Red. So in the original Polo Red, you do get that cranberry. It smells nice. Like I said, my favorite part of the fragrance is the opening. But with Polo Red Intense, they really elevate that. And it becomes even more so the star of the show. So when you first spray this one on, oh yeah, it is huge. Grapefruit and cranberry mixing together. It is a great opening. It's sweet, very sweet. It has less tartness, I would say, than the original Polo Red because this one is amplifying that sweetness and kind of taking that to the forefront. And this is one of those times where Intense makes sense because the performance here is better too. It outperforms the original, both in terms of longevity and projection. It's a more attention-grabbing fragrance. It's a more interesting fragrance. So just on the whole, Intense is better than the original Polo Red. Now here's the bad part. That is discontinued and it's not easy to find anymore. So that is unfortunate. For a while you could find Polo Red Intense at discounters, but eventually the stock ran dry and yeah, it's not easy to find. If Red Intense ever does pop up for a decent price, I would scoop it up. But then there's this one, Red Extreme, and I think this is also better than the original Polo Red. And it is also difficult to find. Not as hard to find as Red Intense, but yeah, it's another one that it's gonna be tough. You're gonna have to keep your eyes open. Don't pay a crazy price for it or anything, but if you see it for a decent price, and again, you like Polo Red, I would scoop Red Extreme up too. Now, Red Extreme is quite different from Red Intense and the original Red in the sense that Red Extreme is more focused on the coffee, and the cranberry here is basically not there. So in the opening, it is a very different approach to Polo Red than the other two. This one has blood orange as the citrus, and that's going to be the fruit in the opening. But again, it's more focused on coffee, and it actually has a faint similarity to Halloween Man X, a little bit similar to that in the way it's constructed. But yeah, these two, unfortunately, are the two Polo red fragrances that I would most tell you are worth getting, and they're both really hard to find now. But taking it back to the original Polo red, even though those two are, in my opinion, superior to this one, this is still a nice scent. Yes, it's more mellow, you know, it's not gonna reach out and grab everybody's attention, and somebody's gonna have to be at least fairly close to you to be able to pick up a good whiff of it. But it's a great grab and go kind of fragrance for fall and winter time, as long as you're not expecting really nice performance. Worth checking out if you've never smelled it, you see it in a store, give it a spray, see if that opening works for you. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. See you again another day with another video of EDT.